So good to have you all here. Such a blessing. All right. So I've been assigned aging, but I would like to point out I'm not the only one aging. I think everyone is. But it is a fun job to get to talk about getting old. That's what, they didn't want to say it, thought that. And I do qualify now because I am indeed old. But not as old as I hope, not as old as the age I hope to attain to. How's that? But still. And it's a privilege to get to talk about this, and I'm very grateful, so grateful, because this is, as you heard, our 50th anniversary for Christ Church. And when I was 23, I was at that meeting here in Moscow to form a church in Moscow. And praise the Lord, I'm still here worshiping at Christ Church. It looks a lot different than it did then. Scraggly little group of students or just out of college kids. And so we're so grateful. But that means you know how old I am if you can do the math. So we've all either known firsthand or heard stories about mean little old ladies. They're always little. They're not big jolly ladies. They're little, mean, bitter ladies, and we've heard of them. Maybe you've even known some. But we've also come across the kind who are tough and kind and have a twinkle in their eye. And I like that picture so much better, don't you? Instead of the hard-bitten, nasty. I have known a few of those, that kind, but particularly who are not believers, that just had a kind of a nasty streak, didn't like people, were grumpy, and you always got in their way. Not fun. My great-grandmother, who was an old lady when I don't remember her except for maybe when I was 8 or 9, but she scared me to death. But she was blind, and she had dark glasses on and was in a wheelchair. And I think that's what was so scary. But my older sister remembers her better. And she said when we went in her house, there was a velvet, what's it called, Becca? You have it? It's a velvet, like, love seat. Fancy, Victorian, carved. I mean, Becca's stuck with it right now. And my sister said as soon as we walked in the door, the kids would be told, do not touch it. And the whole house, I do remember this part, was a no touch. Everything was a no touch. Let it get beat up, people. Who cares? I mean, she's not here to enjoy it anymore. And Becca's stuck with it. It is cute. She's going to make it cuter. Anyway, I digress. That is not on my notes. I did know an old lady, the kind with the twinkle in her eye, named Wilkie. I think she was called that because her last name was Wilkinson. She lived across the street from me when I was single, here in Moscow. She had the teeniest little house. It's still there. She was very short, had white hair, and was a little stooped. But once in a while, I would stop by to say hi, not on a regular basis, but just whenever it's occurred to me. But I knew I'd better have an hour, because Wilkie would have a lot to talk about, and it was fascinating. But also because she would want to order a pizza, she'd get right on the phone and say, deliver a pizza for 4 people. And my eyes would get big, because she wanted to send some home with me. And so then we would and sometimes she'd make us a hamburger. I remember that. She made great hamburgers. But I didn't go hungry. It was just always happened. But she was good company, and she would tell me stories of traveling around here with a mule and her husband. And I wish I remembered those stories better. But it was never a self-pity party. She just had great stories and was feeding me. Isn't that sweet? she was a widow. She was single. If she was by herself, but she was feeding people who just showed up at her door to say hi. And I had that lean, hungry look, I think. But she was not a fusser, and she didn't say, "Why don't you come more often?" or "Why can't you stay longer?" It was just always the door was opened and I was welcomed in. Even when she broke her hip, I did not see her complain. And old age isn't for sissies. It's a funny little saying, but it is true. It is true. If you're going to be old, have fun doing it. Why not? Now, Rachel used the image, and I love it, of the vine bearing fruit. And I'd like to continue that image. Old age is not the end of the fruit-bearing time. I did a little research on the life cycle of a grapevine, and it really is interesting. In the spring, the vine is in the bud, and there's all those tiny clusters that look like baby grapes, but they're really flowers in the bud, and then they break open, and then the fruit is set and ripened, and then it's harvested eventually. But then the vine is still busy, and that's what I want you to think about in old age, because the fruit has been harvested, but there's still work to do. The vine gathers nourishment and stores it in the roots and the trunk for the following year. Isn't that a great picture? It's like leaving a legacy, gathering stuff up for next time. And in our case, for the next people behind us, the people coming behind us. And when it has enough, then it begins dormancy. But I just like to hope that, like that vine, as we reach an older age, we're just going to continue to be productive, not give up, not call it quits, and not say, "I'm too tired, I don't want to go, it's raining." But we'll be gathering reserves of nourishment for the next generation of fruit. And that fruit isn't always visible when you're older. When you're having babies, it's very visible in the pew next to you. When you're older, it may not be as visible. It may be underground, so to speak, but you're still gathering, and you're storing up things, whether it's spiritual fruit and offering refreshment to all those hungry or tired people around you. Here we go. But we want to leave a legacy. So you want to think about, what is your legacy and how can you improve on it? How can you make it better? How can you get started now? Some of you have probably already made grandchildren quilts. I inherited one from my mom that her grandma had made, that is so pretty, and I bestowed it on Rachel because you had Evangeline May Elizabeth, and she was May Downey, the lady who made it. And it seemed very appropriate. But I haven't made any quilts with much of a lifespan yet. But there's still time. You don't know. I did make one, but it didn't last very long. I think I put inside it some army blankets because that's what we had. Anyway. But there are other things, like preserving the family history, writing those stories for your children and grandchildren. Our legacy is really tied up with Sabbath dinner, which was at our home for 20 or so years before it moved to our daughter Rachel's house. But it's still a legacy that we're leaving behind that is so sweet, that isn't tangible. It's not tangible. And you may start things around your Sabbath tables that long after you're gone, they're going to still be doing. You don't know. So come up with some good things while you have a chance. We can leave a spiritual inheritance for our children by living out our own faith so they can see us growing old and how we're handling it. And this can motivate us to be ever more faithful for their sakes. We want them to be always trusting the Lord and relying on Him, just as they have hopefully seen us do. So that's a big part of growing old. Is sometimes women feel like, what am I supposed to be doing? Well, plenty. There's plenty still to be done. Of course, as we age, we've got to, like any age, we have to adjust and adapt to new circumstances. But you had to do that when you became a teenager. And you had to do that when you got into your 20s. I mean, you've had to do that before. We do that all the time. So it's not new. It's adjusting, being flexible, not getting all in a dither over new circumstances. If the Christian life was static, it'd be very boring and miserable. It struck me that little girls cannot wait to grow up, but not all women are as excited about getting old. But we should be. Why not? What is the alternative? All those years of growing up trusting the Lord were preparation for all that is to come. So you may have had a house full of people, big and little, at one time, and now it is quiet. Your children and grandchildren don't need you like they used to. Well, it'd be terrible if they did, wouldn't it? Mom, help. I can't think of an off-the-cuff example, but it would be terrible if they were asking for constant help like they did when they were 12. Okay? We want them to mature also. All those years of growing up, trusting the Lord, whatever the phase, whatever the stage, those were preparation for all that's to come and for now. The grapevine isn't supposed to stay in flower all year long. If it did, there'd be no fruit, there'd be no harvest. Think of that. When the childbearing years are over, don't grieve. Be thankful. You're moving on, and it's always a promotion, and it has new challenges. Maybe you didn't want to be done yet. Maybe you didn't have time to get started. Trust the Lord and press on. They're not all easy changes that we're going to face. Maybe you're a widow now, living by yourself. But rather than recoiling from this change, learn to lean into it. It's not, like I said, it's not easy. But if we believe God, that He's ordained all of this, and we know He has, then we should call these challenges good. This is a good change. This is a promotion. Now I have to trust Him in new areas, and I should be in shape if I've been trusting Him all along. If you are still married, then you still have a husband to bring good to. So do that. He should be the first recipient of all your cares and all your help. And that too is laying down a track for your children and grandchildren. They're watching. They see what's going on. So during this season, choose to be joyful, not fearful, productive, not stymied or bored, and always growing in grace. We are Christian women. We can trust the Lord to prosper our souls, and we want to grow to be fat-souled women. And so as long as we're on this earth, let's press on and gain ground. If we've been the kind of women who embrace change as God has brought it, then we are limber. We're not stiff. And so it won't be too tough to accept. It may take time, but if we've been resistant all our lives, old age is going to be a trial. If we've carried complaints from one stage to the next, we will have accumulated a lot of baggage by now. And this is going to weigh us down. So be free of that. Throw it overboard. And then thank God for your circumstances and don't grumble. It's not fun to be around grumbling, complaining, bossy women of even of any age, but especially older ones. Like being greeted with "don't touch anything." Then there are our feelings. Remember the woman in Proverbs 31? Strength and dignity are her clothing. I love that. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. I think one of you quoted that verse. I like this lady. She's not a worrier. She's not fearful. She's fun to be with. She's good company. So take charge of your feelings and don't let them steer. Do not give them the steering wheel. It's not a good idea. Steer them instead. Don't get into feeling lonely and then enjoying your feelings. Find ways to be a blessing to others, even if it's just writing them a note. Remember what God promised in Isaiah 46:4. It's a great passage. Even to your old age, I am He, and even to gray hairs, I will carry you. I have made you, and I will bear. Even I will carry and will deliver you. Isn't that wonderful? A wonderful promise. He'll never leave us or forsake us. He says, I am He. I have made. Remember who made you? He says, I will bear you. I will carry you to the finish line. So remember that. You're not alone, not at all. So chide yourself. Give yourself a little shake, and if necessary, and then encourage yourself and laugh at the days to come. Be your own best counselor. And do not let those pesky feelings get the steering wheel. They most certainly do not know how to drive. 2 Corinthians 4:16, therefore we do not lose heart. That's about our feelings a little bit there. Even though our outward man is perishing, yet the inward man is being renewed day by day. Our culture hates to see that perishing external, doesn't it? Our outward man is perishing, and yet the inward man is being renewed. It's looking great. It's in better shape than ever. The outside is pretty pitiful. But the inward man is getting these constant renewal. It's a wonderful picture. So face it, our bodies are perishing. Doesn't matter how healthy you are. Your body's not going to last you forever. But we've been promised new ones. So don't lose heart or be discouraged. Be renewed every day. Be refreshed in God's word. Keep at it, read it, study it, meditate on it, and do it. And when we obey His word, we are making it our own. When we just read it and don't do what it says, we can't find the comfort and sweetness and strength from it that we're going to need later or now. You may come to the point where your children will need to step in to give you some help. Be wise. Be wise. Be humble. Don't be headstrong and stubborn. Receive the help with gratitude. Years ago at a Sabbath dinner in our front yard, we were having some conversation about old age, theoretical old age. And maybe telling a story about somebody, I don't know. But at one point, our son Nate said, don't worry, Mom, if anything like that happens, you'll be living with us. And I said, oh no, Nate, that won't be necessary. And then I thought, what did I just say? And I said, can I rewind that tape? Thank you, my son. I mean, really. Thank you, my son. I know all of our kids would jump in and help if we needed. I know absolutely. So, of course, we're not hoping we need that kind of care, but we'd love to stay independent and stay in our own home until we die. But it's such a brick wall you put up when you resist your kids' help, if you need it. So be cooperative, be a blessing. Don't be that ugly mom. When Doug and I moved in with his dad to take care of him, he was in his 90s, and we were in our 60s. Just kids we were. He was, with rare exception, very easy to get along with, just like me, right? I wouldn't be able to count how many times he thanked me. Boy, I shouldn't have brought this up. But anyway, the point is, I learned so many new lessons about flexibility, and I know he did too, because of me. Because I had worked for him before I was married and for a little while afterwards at the bookstore. And, you know, we had a fun relationship, but it was a whole new, different relationship when we were taking care of him. And I just thank the Lord for those days. We thought we would be there a few months, and we were there 4 years. And it went so well. Were there ever moments where I had to take a little walk? And yes, countless. But on those little walks, I'd say, Lord, I'm getting under your feet. I'm under your feet. Why did I bring this up, ladies? Such a bad idea. Anyway, I would gladly do it all again. Absolutely. Tremendous blessing, but not easy. And so as we get old, we can't be too, I would say, too precious to need help. Do you know what I mean? All right, I'm going on to something else. As you grow older, of course, there are new challenges, new opportunities. He's refining you, he's maturing you, and you're laying up stores for the future. You don't know what's coming, but whatever it is, you know it will involve trusting the Lord. And that's why you want to use every opportunity now to trust him. What is it you're not trusting him about? What are you worrying about? My mother-in-law used to say, faith is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So be using it now. In what areas do you need to be exercising more faith? Practice. You got to practice, or you won't get stronger. And it will make your children and grandchildren appreciate that it's a lot easier to take care of you if you're a faithful, godly Christian woman and you're setting a track for them. Just a few more things. Do we have still time?
Fine.
Okay. Don't make your health your hobby. I know it's tempting, and we have to take care of ourselves and we have to address issues. But you know what I mean? Don't turn it into the only thing that you spend your time and your thoughts on. Don't stew over the past and wish things had turned out differently. Put things right if they haven't been yet and move on. Regret is not repentance. So put things right. Don't indulge regret. Don't isolate yourself or pull away. Continue to be an active participant as much as you can. And it's easy to think I'd rather stay home. I'm too tired. But you need fellowship. You need friendship. Don't shirk. Be at church faithfully. Come what may. Force yourself to meet somebody new. Don't become over serious about old age, making everything a big deal. Live your life with wisdom and humility. My husband suggests that I insert here, take up skateboarding. He knew I would need a joke right about now. Don't be tempted to spend money foolishly online because you're bored. That's not good stewardship, and it will rob your children. And they'll be stuck with all this weird yard art that they have to get rid of. You want a lifelong vision for the Christian life full of creativity, hard work, joy, and sacrifice. So I have a quote from Matthew Henry to wrap up with, and then I'll have some company. It is a pleasant sight to see aged Christians abounding in acts of devotion as those that are not weary of well-doing, that do not think themselves above these exercises or past them, but take more and more pleasure in them and see more and more need of them till they come to heaven. Isn't that good? Abounding in acts of devotion, not weary of well-doing. So that's our call all the way to the end. Thank you. Rachel's coming up now.
They're clapping for you, Mom, not for me coming up. I want to tell a story about years ago now that something was not going well at my house, but things were not going well at Mom's house either.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, it was good. My kids were little, and I wish I remembered all the details because I don't remember why it was not going well at my house. But I know that Nate and Heather had a trip to New York, and so Mom was babysitting the Wilsons' kids for a couple days.
Which was obviously my pleasure.
Yes.
So fun.
But nobody planned. There was some kind of a big church fiasco. There was some kind of a counseling blow up to the moon of some kind. I don't know what. But it was one of those sudden, very dad is needing to be doing other stuff.
Occupied.
Rory got hit in the neck with a baseball or something. And so they had to take him to the ER because it looked like a baseball just coming off of his neck. And Seamus started puking, I think. I think it was like everything. Yeah. Meanwhile, that was just Mom's problems. Whatever my problems were at home were much more important and significant to me at the time. And Luke came home And I was telling him all of that, probably not being a lot of fun or funny about it. I was just telling him like, and then this happens and I can't do it. And I'm a failure. The house is a mess. Who knows what? And he was like, cheer up. If everything goes according to plan, in about 20 years, we could be taking one of our grandkids to the ER and handling some counseling blow-ups. And someone could be puking. I mean, like, stay the course. We've got a lot ahead of us. And I was like, you are right. But there is a serious point here, which is
I miss those days. I really do.
Whatever that is in our flesh that longs for a time when we have nothing to do, when really there is nothing sadder than having nothing to do and no one that needs you and nowhere that you are helpful. And it's funny that we keep thinking, oh, that'll be nice. That would be great if we could only get there. But it was and clearly that rebuke came to me before Mom and Dad had even leveled up what they were doing, caring for Grandpa and doing everything. It was such a good reminder that our goal is to do whatever we're doing right now in a way that makes us stronger for the work that God has for us then. And we're all human. We would be sick and overwhelmed if we could see everything. If we could see all the good works that God had prepared for us, we would faint clean away. There's a lot of good work to do, but we need the muscles now of doing gladly what we're doing so we'll be equipped later when the workouts are bigger. One of the other things that was a constant refrain, I know you said it, we said it, the whole family said it a lot of times. It's one of our mottos we live by. Fruit is heavy. And the good things are like something's not wrong just because it's hard or because it feels heavy or burdensome at the time. But that is instead a sign of God's blessing on your life when the heaviness of the good things you have to do is almost enough to take you out. It's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I think of Doug's mom. We call her Grandma Bessie. She always felt really old because she was 8 years older than her husband, which is a bit. But she thought she was, really.
She's going to die any minute.
For as long as I knew her. But
not actually.
Maybe not.
We should say, I don't know if she thought she was going to die. She planned to die any minute.
She
for
wanted
as long
to.
as we knew her.
Yeah.
But she had her funeral planned out.
Yeah, she was just such a chipper character, such a character. And I just think we made fun of her, when she talked about her funeral or whatever. We didn't just all stop.
I remember her saying it was like their 50th anniversary and someone was planning a party at the Best Western. Isn't that right?
Maybe.
Isn't that where it was? And she kept saying things like, well, I might be in glory by Thursday.
I'm going to glory.
She was not going to make it to the party that was planned next week.
She did.
She might be in glory by then.
She did. And she made it around all those bases faithfully, and I think was still meeting with women and teaching women and encouraging people all the way.
Good. And, in fact, it makes her sound morbid, but she wasn't. She was just funny.
Funny.
She also enjoyed the humor of herself talking about dying all the time. But it was not until I was pregnant. My middle name is Elizabeth after her, and it was not until I was pregnant with Lena. So, I knew her my whole life. It was not until I was having my first baby that she said that I ever heard her want to live for anything. And it was because she said, I hope I live to see you with this baby. And I was like, yes, this is a little overwhelming. She's been ready to go to heaven nonstop until this is the only thing, not the 50th. She doesn't want to be here for anything except for this, which is why all of our daughters have two middle names, because we have assumed we would use Elizabeth sometime, but in the hospital we're like, what if? So I was like, what if we don't use it? What if she doesn't live to see the next one? So we threw Elizabeth in there in the hospital. It's the only thing Grandma lived for, that one moment.
Yeah. She was a missionary, and before she was married, and I have her notebook. Well, after she's married, she led women's Bible studies. I got her notebook, it's probably this fat, which is a printed out notebook style of the New Testament with all of her notes. And it's a treasure. That's a legacy right there.
Yeah.
And her little teeny perfect handwriting, straight as can be. And there's some good stuff in there, ladies, and I'm planning to dive in. all my free time.
She had a devotional, The Daily Light,
Yep.
that she wrote everyone's. That one was funny because you felt like it should be a legacy, but it actually made no sense. The notation of like she put a lot of notes in it on what happened on days when people's birthdays were.
She is the one who told me when I had 2 little bitty kids and was feeling a little overwhelmed, and I thought, I'll call Bessie. She'll have some godly word for me and help me get out of this pit. And I called her, and she heard my little sadness, and she said, Nancy, there was a missionary who was arrested and hung by his heels in a cave. And his wife had to bring him his books so he could read
And feed him upside down.
and feed him and have a good day, you know. She didn't quite end it that way, but I took it like, okay, I get it. I never called her again about stuff. I knew the answer. I'm not hanging in a cave.
It should be mentioned that you
good.
also never called anyone else either.
No.
It was actually like, well, that's a wrap on that trick.
Yep.
Oh, that's so good.
Okay. Do we have anything else?
Yes, I do. Okay.
Okay, good.
One of the images that I have thought of frequently, I mean, in my own life, but it's something that I do think is true for what we're doing, which is however long your life is, however long God has you here. I have often thought of it that length of time is it's like a rock being thrown into a pond. You're in the air for only so long, and then we go through to the other side. You know, we don't know how long it is. But one of the things that we can think about is, Lord, make my life impactful for far more than, like, when we talk about being fruitful, you're talking about seed, you're talking about, Grandpa Jim wrote a book called Taking Men Alive about evangelism, and he makes the point there that people plant seeds of new life all the time without knowing it. You know, how often as an evangelist, he would be the person there to harvest a plant, but that had been planted way back. Some friend you knew in college said something that really bothered you and brewed, and it comes until someone's really ready to come to the Lord. But it's a lot of faithful Christians play a part in things they never see. You never know. It's part of this, what Becca was talking about, being fruitful. It's not always being fruitful with your own intellect, like, I know what this fruit is. It's living abundantly in the Lord and gladly pouring out and doing whatever you can and being glad to do that. And asking the Lord to manage what the fruit is and where it comes up and how it goes.
My older sister shared the gospel with me. I was, I guess I was 20 years old. And she said, would you like to pray? And I said, no, I don't want to be like those campus crusaders. And that was the end of it. And then a few hours later, I was converted. And apparently against my will. But I remember I was in the car, and all of a sudden I thought, well, when I get home, I'm going to take a walk. I'm going to get everything right with God. And I called her later and said, so now what do I do? And she said, what are you talking about? I said, well, I did what you said. And she just, she thought it was a bad witness, like she'd blown it. And I think that's what you're talking about. When you're ministering to people, it may not bear instant fruit, or it may not bear fruit for a long time, or it may bear fruit you never see, but you do it. And I think she was probably terrified sharing all that with me. It took a lot of nerve and courage because I was such a and bless her. Bless her. It has borne fruit.
No kidding. We have, I can remember thinking, there's a lot of blessings to living in the same small town your whole life.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I loved is that we used to live on the other side of town. So if you drive up around the Kibbe Dome, which was our route home, so it was our route home from school, there's a little patch of grass by the old Arboretum that would be where my kids would say, there's where Nana became a Christian, like as we would drive by it. And the sweetness of, if she could have only seen then.
No idea.
Like here, even in the same place, carloads of grandkids who are so thankful for God's mercy, inserting himself into well, it's not really your legacy, his legacy. Yeah. It's the sweetness of the fruit that God is growing all the time.
Well, there were years in there where after I was saved and after I was plugged in and working in a Christian bookstore, there was one particular point where I said, Lord, I'll go to the ends of the earth for you. Just get me out of Moscow. He said it. But then I had been a Christian long enough to know that was not the right attitude. So I took a walk around downtown and thanked him for everything I could sometimes dredge up about Moscow that I could be thankful for. And that was the end of it. It's like, I never thought about it again. And lo, guess what he didn't do? Kept me here. And now, I mean,
Fruitful against your will.
Yeah.
Get to be here. Okay, I'll finish with this. When I was talking about your life being like a rock thrown into the pond, and on the way, asking the Lord to magnify your impact, to use you to be fruitful, to do a lot of things in your life. And I do love, I don't know if it was actually a quote by Ronald Reagan, but I know he had it on his desk when he was president, on a plaque that says, there's no end to what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. And when you're gladly pouring out and throwing things out there, and it's not about, like Becca was talking about, building your resume, trying to keep all of your, this is what I get credit for, but just being an exhibition of God's grace to you, to the world, pouring it out freely. That there's a lot that can be accomplished that way. 2 Corinthians 4:17 and 18. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. While we do not look at things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, and the things which are not seen are eternal. I think of this, tying this all together back with all the phases of life and childhood and death and growing old, that this whole life is just a moment. Everything is just a moment. And if you think any of you in here who have ever been in labor with a child, you know it's all consuming at the time, and it feels like a long time when you're in labor. But as soon as you have that baby, the labor is nothing. Like, that was nothing. It doesn't, you would never think of your grown children like, but cost a lot. Right? Cost almost nothing. And that momentary affliction, working an exceeding weight of glory, is this whole life is nothing compared to the glorious outcome that we can't see clearly now. But that's why we can so confidently trust our Lord and pour ourselves out gladly, knowing that it's working something glorious there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming.